Have you ever had a single encounter that completely changed your life? So there I was. It was March of 2002. I'd scheduled a meeting with Ron, my recruiter, determined to figure out what my next career move would be. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests, I was at a crossroads moment in my life. Although I was a 31-year-old executive in the automotive field, and I appeared to be doing well, I couldn't ignore that voice inside that said, "Eric, there's got to be more." Have you ever felt like there's got to be more? I told Ron about my idea of pursuing pharmaceutical sales. It was the up-and-coming field, and I had quite a few friends that were doing well. Ron told me, "Eric, that sounds like a pretty good idea, except for one small detail. I'm looking at your background, and there isn't a manager in his right mind that would hire you. But aside from that, it's a great plan. Go for it." He then asked me a profound question. What do you really want to do? Well, Ron, I want to do something where I can earn a good salary and not have to work weekends. That doesn't answer the question, Eric. What do you want to do? I want to do something that I'm good at. You still didn't answer the question, Eric. What do you want to do? And there was silence. For the first time, I realized that I didn't know what my true calling in life was. Ron broke the silence by asking me the following questions. What are you passionate about? And what would you try if you knew that you wouldn't fail? I reflected on Ron's questions, and I realized that I felt the most passion when I was up in front of an audience speaking. This led me to the discovery that public speaking was my calling in life. By finding my calling, I had taken the initial step towards living my dream. I was excited. I was on fire. I was so excited and on fire, and for the next 3 years, I did nothing. That's right. For 3 years, I didn't do anything to pursue my dream. The mistake I made was that I thought I had to have all of the details in perfect order before I started to move. But then one day I had an encounter with my GPS system that taught me what to do next. On this particular day, I had an appointment that was over an hour from my house. I got in the car, I punched in the address, and I became frustrated because I couldn't get any direction. I was so frustrated that I called my customer service representative. And what she told me applies to our discussion today. She said, "Mr. Twiggs, sometimes you will fail to get direction as long as you're stationary in one location. But once you start moving towards your destination, your system will engage and tell you where to turn next." I decided that I would apply this GPS lesson to my public speaking. I started moving by speaking in the local community. At one of these speaking engagements, there was a member of Toastmasters in the audience. Now, for some reason, he was frowning and shaking his head throughout my entire presentation. I think I made an impression on him because afterwards, he told me that I really needed Toastmasters. So much so that he would pay for the membership. I joined my local club that year, and at one of the meetings, the vice president suggested that I enter into something called the speech competition. If I hadn't taken the initial step of speaking in my local community, I wouldn't be in front of you today living my dream. My experience taught me not to let perfect become the enemy of progress. The next lesson I learned was not to let comfort become the enemy of my calling. For several years, I had been comfortable in my career routine, even though I didn't like the result that my routine produced. I'm reminded of the famous story of two construction workers named Joe and Mike. Joe and Mike were on the construction site one day, and they were about to have lunch. As they opened their lunch boxes, Joe says to Mike, "Baloney again. I just hate bologna. This is the third day this week that I'm having bologna. To which Mike replied, why don't you just ask your wife to make you something different for lunch? Mike, I don't have a wife. I made these sandwiches myself. Now, I hate to admit it, but I was just like Joe. I was comfortable in my routine. I complained about the result, even though at the end of the day, I was responsible. If you're tired of the same bologna, you can change the menu by taking the initial step towards your dream. Remember, don't let perfect become the enemy of progress. And don't let comfort become the enemy of your calling. And as I go to my seat, I leave you with this final question. What is the initial step that you need to take to start living your dream? Madam Toastmaster.